Hello, welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're listening to newstreamingnetwork.com, home of Going Bold and Going Solo. This show is Link to Expert Business Showcase. I am one of your hosts, Cece Shatz. I'm the Doyenne of Relationship Building, and I'm also the president of Going Solo Network, which also owns the newstreamingnetwork.com. I have my wonderful friend here with me. We've been friends for quite some time, and she's just such a lovely lady. And I want you guys to get to know her better. We have Joanne Weiland. Joanne, welcome.
Thank you, Cece. It's a joy to be here and share people's expertise with the world. And I'm so glad that we do this business showcase to help other business owners learn from other business owners. And I think that's what it's all about, that we all are there for each other.
Absolutely. Well, you've got a wonderful business itself. It's called Link to Expert, right? LinktoEXPERT.com. So make sure everyone, if you haven't heard about it, go out and check it out. But you are the Chief Connections Officer, and you also are the founder of the collaborative cloud community, which is called LinktoEXPERT.com. It really is a very unique site. If you haven't heard about it, you must go check it out. I am actually on the site. I love it. I use it, and I highly recommend it to other people. It's a great way to be able to connect with a lot of business owners, a lot of experts, and which is very, very important as you're building your business. And it also is a wonderful way to be able to get your information out to the thousands, not just one or two people, but out to the thousands. And that's what we are here all about on New Streaming Network. So we're going to quit pitching ourselves, because that's what we're doing and we do it so well. But we love what we do, and we hope that you guys appreciate it and want to stay with us here right on the New Streaming Network. But let's get on with our topic, because we have really a terrific guest with us here today. I'm going to bring Chad up for us, so let me bring him up to the stage. Hey, Chad.
Welcome,
hey,
Chad
ladies.
Johnson.
Thank you for having me on, and excited to chit chat with you guys about all this.
Oh, yeah, it is great having you. Chad Johnson is actually one of our locals here in our area, which we actually love. He's a transformational coach, and he does a great deal with, dads in the community, but also individuals as they're moving through their life, trying to build up. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. We're going to talk about really your transformation for the new year, because, we're stepping forward towards the last quarter here of this year, and starting to think about our new year, what it is that we want out of life, where we're going, where we've been. And there's nobody better to talk to that, those kind of subjects with, than to talk to Chad about it. So Chad, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Chad. Yeah, the transformation thing, it's very elusive for a lot of people, but I mean, it can be very simple. Some of the best things in life are simple at their core, and yet they're still complex, right? I always say it's a simple thing to make a change in life, but it's not necessarily an easy thing. So that's the part. A lot of this is ultimately about behavior modification and habit forming, right? And consistency. Mm-hmm. So there's certain themes that you'll see go through, and we all know it. I think no matter what new technology comes out, or the next fad of dieting and of exercise and all the new ways to try to respin the original, and wherever you go, there you are, right? So like, that doesn't matter what you try to do on the outside, it all comes back to the inside. So we're talking about kind of full transformations, ideally, and I know some people are like, look, they say at its core, most everybody that wants to get in shape and look better, it's because they want to look better naked. It's like, there's some core aspect of that whether it's for yourself when you see, getting out of the shower, or because others are going to see you, So, and that just alludes to ultimately confidence. And I kind of would argue that I think everything we do, whether it's, eat certain food, sit down and watch a show on Netflix, or, hang out with your friends, or go travel the world, everything comes back to a feeling. It always comes back to like how it makes you feel. That's really what you're chasing. You're not chasing the $1 million. You're not chasing the abs showing. It's really about how you feel in the midst of all that. And so, as logical as we try to be about stuff, That's why in sales, like you have to emotionally get somebody involved. Otherwise, it's probably not going to happen. So we want to appeal to both sides of the brain, right? That very logical, analytical, and mathematical side, and then the other, emotion driven and artistic and creative side. So that's why they say it's an art and a science. It's putting the two things together. So it can be very exciting in that.
Yeah, well, you're famous for the breakthrough, right? You're, I always think that you're more like a breakthrough transformational coach, right? Because a lot of times as we start out wanting to create a change in our lives, we say to ourselves, okay, we want change, we want something different. Things didn't work the way we planned last year. We want to kick off the new year with something kind of different. But how do we go about doing that, right? And so we need a breakthrough. So we have to start aligning ourselves with the idea of a change in our life. So how do we dissect it, Chad, to be able to break it down to what it is that we need to start doing to get this, wonderful breakthrough in our lives?
Sure. Well, that's what I kept coming back to, I focus on this, breakthrough dad program only because I'm a dad that's struggling with these things, and it's universal, right? I've helped literally over 1,000 women, lose weight and transform their body, and, upwards of like 102 pounds lost by, a couple of individuals. And so again, it comes back to that, like it's a science and an art, and really the emotion side of it is what has to anchor first. Right. So like, I always think of that like Southern phrase of like, I'm fitting to go to the store. I'm fitting to lose some weight, like that's the way most people kind of function. They're preparing, they're thinking about it, they want it, but not bad enough. Right. And so I think, even when you look at like a sales cycle, you never can sell something to somebody if they're not problem aware first. Right. Like you have to be problem aware. You have to understand, hey, this is an issue. Like I'm going the wrong direction, or I don't like how I feel on a day in, day out energy level, or how I look, or, I've had enough. There's somehow of like, not necessarily hitting rock bottom, but definitely feeling like you're on that downward trend or stalemate, right? I should say stagnating. Those situations are what frustrates us. I mean, one of the famous phrases I remember from Tony Robbins is he talks about like, people are happy when they're making progress, And so if you're not making progress towards your goals, it's really frustrating. You could be a multi-billionaire, and if you're just stagnating, it's probably pretty frustrating, because maybe they're stagnating in their business, but they're flourishing in their family life, right? Or their health. And so like, I do believe there's a little bit of this whole like, there are a lot of gurus or whatever you want to say, social media influencers out there kind of poo-pooing the idea of work-life balance. And I get it. Like, it's not a perfect thing, right? And so this is where everybody goes. They're like, I want to plan. I want to be, like I want to have this and this and this all aligned. But the balance isn't an equal balance. It's like maybe at one point you're pushing harder in your physical fitness and your nutrition. And then you can be able to coast for a little bit and maintain while you push harder in your business, right? Or in your career. And then maybe you put a little more emphasis on your family, but you definitely need to keep those components all involved and engaged, especially when it comes to the relationship side. I know that's something that both of you are very kind of like known for and understand the value of, is like, I've never heard of anybody on their deathbed saying, I wish I would have made $1 million more, or I wish I would have worked, more hours. It's always, I wish I would have spent more time and built a relationship with this individual or these individuals in my family. Right. Or I would have gone to see the world and, and had experiences. And so we definitely need to be able to, find that balance in all of it. But let's be real. Like, what is it? 95% of all, major diseases are linked to our lifestyle, right? Like our actual habits of how we eat and what, how our physical activity is, our stress levels. And there are a lot of little nuances, and I'm okay. Like I'm kind of like diet agnostic, like I don't care if they really want to be keto, go ahead. I think it's really hard for most people to do keto, but if that's what you want to do, fine, we can work around it. If you want to be paleo, if you're another one that's hard is like vegetarian and vegan. It's totally possible to live very healthy, very fit lives off of these individual things. But what I've kind of always come back to is just like in religion, the major religions of the world, they always came back to the middle path, right? So like Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, even though he wasn't like, a religious leader, but they always teach about the moderation, right? And the middle path. And for most of us, you don't want to get too obsessed or too extremist, I should say, right? Because that's when, you alienate yourself, you start, kind of having a skewed, almost like, a sickness of like think about people with eating disorders, right? So we got to be really careful about that and understand like life is meant to be lived, so like you still got to, and you should enjoy life. But there are maybe certain things that you do in your living that are severely damaging your health and minimizing the length of time you have here on earth. Right. And so this is where I think it's so important to be able to have a breakthrough. First thing is you got to be like looking at it square in the eyes kind of a thing and being like, look, I have to address this. And you can be able to get away with little pieces, right? Little habits, like the old movie, What About Bob? Baby steps to the kitchen, baby steps to the bathroom. Like there's little baby steps that'll get you there. But just me throwing out a video, the other day on 3 tips to, start your day and start your day off right and start, getting in better shape. That in and of itself isn't going to change somebody's life. Right. And so transformations are very kind of in your face, and we need to, address it and kind of sit with ourselves in silence, So I think that's a key part. And that is what will set you up to be kind of like sobered to address the real systems and problems. Bless you. And so that's kind of the launching off part itself. And, a breakthrough is ultimately trying to get to, I think, ultimately a better version of yourself or a deeper level of yourself, and one of the core things, I think we were talking offline about it here. And it's that, at the end of the day, it's not something out there. Right. It's not like that diet or that outfit or going on that trip or getting that job. Those things out there are always just like, symptoms, to the actual cause. And the cause is something internal. You're chasing a feeling, you're chasing what you think you're supposed to because everybody else says it, or, it's so pervasive in our society. But like, real health is going to be being able to sit, amongst yourself. I don't know if you guys might know this, but I'm 44. Most people think I'm in the like early 30s or maybe younger. I say thank you to them because I know I'm not. But I
thought you were younger than 44. Okay. I did.
Thank you. So well, and here's the thing is I've never drank alcohol in my life. I've never done any drugs. I've never smoked. Never. I took a very extremist. I had alcoholism and substance abuse stuff within my family. And I guess I basically declared I was never going to do it. And I think it's a mix between like high levels of principles and stubbornness that I stuck to it. Cause I went to Michigan State University. For those of you who know, it's like top 5 party school every single year, nationwide. And I actually had a DJ company with my friend. We called it Dancing DJs. So we would go to the parties and do all this stuff. And I also was even the social chair of a fraternity. And like how is that even possible? Well, I think because I had the DJ company, they kind of made an exception with me. They're like, well, Chad's got to pass. Because I was like, you're not hazing me. I'm not doing any of that other stuff. And so the key part about that, and one other major like life choice that I made about principles, they helped shape who I am, right? And how I see myself. And that's where I think a lot of it comes back to is your self-image. How you see yourself, am I a person who follows through? Am I a person who keeps my word, or who, am I a person who exercises? It literally, our identities are what direct us all the time. And so what people do is they get caught up in identities that, they like, how many moms nowadays are sitting there thinking like they have to be a career woman. They have to be like super mom. And then somehow they're supposed to mix in themselves right along the way and take care of that. And you got all these conflicting messages and agendas. And so we wonder why we don't get anywhere or why we backslide. It's because, we're fighting ourselves, And so there's I guess my main point of this is there's a sense of surrender to it too, right? Like being vulnerable in the moment and saying like, okay, I've had an issue with eating. Why? Right? In Tony Robbins and a couple others had this saying of the 7 levels of why, right? If we just keep asking why about like that one, and you get deep, you pretty soon you'll actually get to the core root, and it'll be pretty deep and intense, but like it'll be fundamental, and then we can actually address it. So there is a little bit of, unfortunately, like, uncomfortable work to be done, but people can go the other way too and start the small stuff and then start to realize there's a deeper part. So
yeah, this is really informative. I think kind of what I'm taking away is that sometimes you have to do the heavy stuff. You gotta dig deep, because you have to make the life choices that you want to make, right? It's really all up to us what we want to do and how we're going to do it. And so it's understanding yourself and what is really important to you. And again, your why as to why you're doing it. Because if you don't have the why, you're not going to follow through on it. It's going to be harder for you to be able to step forward in it. And I know that as we're making our transformation, especially as we're moving forward into the next new year, there's many, many areas, it's, the health and wellness, it's your career, it's your family, it's your spiritual, there's many, many, many areas in life we need to actually evaluate and take a look at. But one thing you're really great with, Chad, is the fitness and understanding the reasons why we need to be better at it. And it's not necessarily that we need to. I would love to look better naked. I mean, how about you, Joanne? It would be great to say, hey, look at me. But I mean, the reality is that we want to be healthier, right? Because we want to live longer, and we want to be like you, being 44 and have the energy, of someone in their 30s, being able to move forward in life like that. And as we continue to move, in life older, we want that, we need that. And so, so I think the fitness is really a big key. So let's kind of concentrate a little bit on that. And then on the second part of the show, we'll talk about your breakthrough dad that you're doing, because I think you're doing great work there. And we've got many, many single dads out there that could use some assistance and help with that. But what are the key, my takeaway is that number one, we have to make that choice, right? We got to make that choice of that we want to be healthier. We want, what our reason is. Do we want to look good naked, or do we want to be healthier? Or, what is the long-term reason so that we can continue on the progress of this? And I've been told that it's not to lose weight and to get in shape. It's not just fitness and it's not just diet, right? It's like a combination. So lead us down that path a little bit.
So we'll talk a little like one global. I found there's usually 3 reasons why somebody is working out or trying to get in better shape, even if they're already, right? The things that always drove me is 1, you want to look good, right? So that's like maybe the more superficial, kind of on the outside. 2, you want to perform better, right? Whether it's like even just your activities of daily living and knowing that you can be able to like pick something up without straining your back, or, bend over without having it, feel it for the next week. Or within a sport too, right? If you do a certain athletic activity. And the last one is to feel good, right? And that like throughout my life, I kind of look at it like, what stage am I at? When I was younger, it was look good, perform well, and then feel good last. Now that I'm older, it's the opposite. Like first, I want to feel good, because I mean, you ever notice like you have a grumpy, like a lot of times if you think like, oh, this older person's so grumpy, and you start talking to them, you find out they have pain here. They're in constant pain. The reason they're grumpy is because they're uncomfortable, right? And so you definitely want to feel good, right? And then I will like sometimes shift between the feel good, look good, and the perform better part, but mostly it's perform better. And then like the looking good is kind of like the cherry on top, right? It's like, hey, but yeah, you're talking about functionality. And I actually have a background in both youth sports development or athletic development and in functional aging for, seniors. And so actually, you say athletes or clients over the age of 50 tend to be, especially like even 60 plus, they tend to be great from a client standpoint, because they don't hound us about the weight loss all the time. They're like, they know maybe they're going to have a struggle with that, but like we know, hey, I need to be able to move well. I'm retired now. I want to spend time with my grandkids, or I want to go see the world. And like, it doesn't do them any good if they're in a wheelchair, right? Or if they're couch bound or bed bound all the time. So they understand that side of it. And then it's like, oh, well, I've also lost 20 pounds. Great. So the perspective kind of changes and it gets more long-term. I mean, I had a client, unfortunately, he passed last year at 94. He started with me when he was like 79, I think. And so I was with him for like 14, 15 years. And in the training world, that's a long time, there's a whole story behind him, but essentially the main point is like, it was fun, like I knew I could challenge him and how I could challenge him, and he would do it. And he was a retired colonel from the Air Force, and just like a hard worker. And he was African-American. So he came up in a time when like they were, have a really hard time and all this. So there's all these stories that he had. And so it became, like a part of my family, he even gave us a piano when he, condensed down from a home into a high level apartment complex. And so, it passes on to my kids. So there's definitely like a relationship side with the, with the client, but the physical training, even though I have a 25-year background in martial arts too, I've built and sold a couple of martial arts schools. Actually, one of them was the same one twice, but there's a whole story there. And then a separate fitness facility. Plus, I built like a weight loss -- personal training hybrid with high technology stuff that I was kind of just experimenting with. And so I've definitely had a lot of background in that. And I love about in martial arts, I call it an action philosophy. Like, and the same thing happens with physical fitness, like bodybuilders. You either do it or you don't do it. Like you're taking an action. There's no just sitting here like we're talking about it. Like if we just had a show all day talking about it, or you read it in a book, it just sits here. It doesn't do anything, right? Or it goes out here. And so you have results that are visible, right? And physical. You feel like my legs are sore from that workout. So for most people, when we look at it, it's, Pareto's principle. It's the 80-20 rule. What's really nice is most of the activities, it's not even that high. It's like the 5% of things that matter the most can give you an upwards of 95% of the results, at least 80 plus, right? And so the highly leveraging which specific activities to do and how often, like you don't have to work out every day. I like to work out at least 5, ideally 6 or 7 days a week, just because it feels good to me. And I'm an athlete. I like, that's part of my identity. So I like that, but I don't tell my clients that they need to do that. It's like 3 is good. 4 is ideal. Like for many people, especially if we're doing like high level of, strength training involved, and you could do body weight type exercise, but there is a lot of benefit for actual resistance training, whether you're talking about free weights or even machines. And especially as we age, there's a significant impact. I mean, they broke it down and said if there's one like kind of like physical aspect that makes the most impact on your health, the health markers and all that, it's actually weight training itself or strength training, because like your bone density increases because the body basically tells it needs to be more stable and it reinforces itself. Obviously you can perform activities better. Your health markers, like your blood levels and all the hormonal balance stuff, that all kicks. So it's like, it is kind of a great equalizer. I am an advocate for that. But you could get away with, I mean, obviously how many people have you seen that just ate right and walked and they lost a bunch of weight? It's possible. Mm-hmm. The body though responds to demand, right? It is basically always trying to make itself as efficient as possible. So if you do the same thing all the time, it's going to get efficient at that and you're going to have less of an effect. Right. And that's why when people come out of the gates and they're like, Chad, I want to lose, they've got 50 or 100 pounds to lose and they want to do it all at once. And they're like, oh, okay. The biggest loser, most of those people within a few months gained, a significant amount. I won't get into the specifics, but a significant amount of weight back. They still were better than they started, but it was way, the body is like, has a set point. It has to be able to adjust itself and understand. So you do want to kind of create something that's logical or that's feasible, I should say. And if we go, hey, I'm going to work out 6 days a week for an hour a day, after a few weeks, your body gets adapted to that level of training. So then what do we do from there? You go to 1.5 hour sessions, right? Do you do a 7th day? So I am a big, just like in the medical world, there's right? Minimum effective dose. So what's the minimum amount that we need to do to get the maximum effect, right? And that helps with our busy lives too, right? So you don't feel like every day you have to do something. But I have a protocol. It's 6-minute workouts, and I can do it from strength training to body weight conditioning to cardio. And it's kind of nice because it's not like there's something just magical about the number of 6 minutes, but it's being able to package it into this small amount and knowing that you still got a good effect in that time period. And nobody can tell me they don't have 6 minutes in their day, right? I mean,
that's interesting. That's very good. I was thinking too, as you were talking, is like, I was always told to work on certain, like, different areas of your, like one day you work on arms and the other day you work on legs and stomach, and, you kind of rotate it around. So this way you're kind of working everything out. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you too is, like, when you're doing a lot of walking, which is really great to get out there and do a lot of walking. But what I have found is that the people that I've talked to about the walking, they lose weight, but then they start to get this sagginess, in them. And it's because they haven't worked the muscles, right? So maybe the resistance training along with the walking would definitely build up your muscle, keep your muscle strong, so that you don't have that sagging as much. And so what do you think about that?
So there's a couple things. Let me address the last part first. And that is, like losing fat, it basically just shrinks everything down. So then you have like the elasticity of the skin issue too, if you had a lot of weight loss. So you're going to get like the, like the forever wave and, that kind of thing. And things that you kind of like, yay, I got here, but now what? And I always say, hey, if you get to that point and you've lost that much weight and you don't like it, you could have surgery to remove the excess skin. Like, I mean, that's fine. If that's the issue that we have, that's better than the issue of what you have now. Right. So, we'll address that. But if you do it the right way, it's going to be kind of a consistent, gradual weight loss kind of a thing and improvements. So your skin does kind of adjust in that sense, for the most part, depending on how quickly you lose. Right. But muscle gives the body shape. Right. It's what gives you form. And I know women oftentimes are always worried about getting too big and bulky. And how do I address this? The ones who do get big and bulky, they are taking steroids. They are taking testosterone. Like, they are doing things that a woman only produces like 10 to 20% of the testosterone that a man does. And so, like, the concern about getting too big and bulky, it's almost like an unnecessary concern, because it's not going to happen. But what can happen is you start to look shapely, and now you're confident and you have better posture, and it's like, oh, you're supposed to actually look that way. It's not that you're trying to push your chest out. It's just that it naturally happens now because your back and shoulders are in proper alignment, and so it gives you a better, physique and bust. So it can actually work out in that sense. So you want the strength training to give that shape and that functionality. Right. And I always say too, like, with people who are like, well, it hurts me to do squats, my knees hurt. And it's because when you're doing things the way you've done it, you ever notice, like, really, like, if you're really sore or tight and you go to reach for something, you're trying to just do as little as possible to get it. Right. And you aren't actually bending your knees and, having the proper angle in your back and all that. And it's because it takes work and the muscles burn when you do that. Right. And so you want muscles to burn. You want that. You don't want to make your joint do the work. That's the problem. Muscles are meant to create movement. Joints are meant to allow movement. And so what people do is they cut corners and they start kind of putting too much torque and pressure on the joints. And that's why, hey, you lose 30 pounds and you move properly, your knees stop hurting. Didn't need knee surgery. Didn't need hip surgery, back surgery, right? And so I actually, a year ago, I was supposed to get a double disc replacement in my neck. I had 3 herniated discs one was so bad, it was exploded into the spine. And it was on one side of it. So the doctor was kind of like, well, luckily for you, it was on one side, because if it was on both sides, you'd be paralyzed. And so I had tingling down my arm and numbness in my fingers and all this kind of stuff. And surgery in many cases can make sense. And I'm not going to fault somebody for it if it's that bad. Especially since it was starting to atrophy my chest. It was disappearing. And so my point is, like, you can have those situations. I luckily had a natural way that I went through and worked on it. And to this day, you probably can't tell, I still have tightness and soreness in my neck. Like, it exists. But yeah, I was able to still, I mean, people wouldn't know it when I'm working out that I have this, you know, and I have herniations up and down my spine, like in my low back. I mean, I know I broke it at one point, and like, there's all kinds of stuff like that, but I move much better because I've learned what to allow and what to do. And to answer your question about like the actual breakdown of your workout. So there are a couple of things, and I'm okay with any of them. Some people, what you were talking about is, you know, body part splits. And that's more of what you do from, like, we've learned that from bodybuilders, right? They can put a certain amount of load. Now, remember, they were using drugs. So like they can recover faster and their muscle will grow faster, all that. But they were trying to get in as much volume as they could while allowing the rest that's necessary. So for most people, total body workouts are actually going to be more effective a few times a week with days in between. Now, that means, like, let's say you do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but you could do cardiovascular exercise activities, sport activities, you know, just daily activity, gardening, all that kind of stuff on the other days, or a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Or another really effective approach, especially if you're like, okay, I'm not just new, but I want to kind of take it to the next level, is a push-pull type of split. So you have like a day where you're doing, you know, pushing movements, like your chest press and all the things involving your chest and triceps and shoulders. And then another day when you're doing more of your pulling type of movements. So you got your biceps and your back and your traps and stuff. So you start getting into splitting it up so that you can kind of do, you know, one on Monday, the next on Tuesday, day off on Wednesday, then Thursday and Friday. And now you hit the same muscle group twice in a week. But when we do a total body, if we do it 3 times a week, now you're doing 3 times a week. It's just less volume. So there's a way to be able to adjust it. And part of it is also just a personal preference. Like, someone says, I want sexy calves, right? They want their calves to look really nice. Or a guy's like, I've never had very big calves and I want to look better. Fine. Right. Like, that's a personal preference, you know? And the mirror muscles for guys, right? Like, I want my chest and my buttons to show. Right. And so those things are perfectly fine. It's kind of like your flavor, your unique side of it. But definitely you want to be able to get into pushes, pulls, rotations, bending to extend. So like your deadlifts and things like that. Your squatting motions are very important. I mean, some of these are completely functional to the body. And I remember when I was in Korea teaching English and training at a university for martial arts for part of the time after my regular college. All these little Korean old ladies would squat and smoke their cigarettes, and their butt is on the ground basically, and their knees are like at their face level. And I was like, I can't even do that. And so I was like, I got to fix that, because I'm not having some old lady be able to do it. So now I can be able to do that, get down in that position, and technically that's how you're supposed to go to the bathroom. So like, if we can't do that, and that's in the floor in Korea, the toilets are on the floor. Like, it's actually like a hole in the floor, and you do it that way. So there's a functionality side. But yeah, like, okay, when we talk about physical transformation, we start trying to design a program. You want to be able to, cardiovascular is not everything, but it is helpful. There's a lot of benefit to it. In fact, I saw a study recently that said, like, if you go for a walk for even like 10 minutes, just a walk for 10 minutes after eating, that it can minimize the effect of the blood sugar 40 to 45%, like almost half of the blood sugar effect, just because of when you're working out or moving. And it, makes you feel better, probably helps you go to the bathroom, so like it's something that's very, very usable. Right. If I give you a 6-minute workout that you do maybe first thing in the morning or early in the morning as part of your routine, that gives you a setup. Or if you want to do a full hour or whatever, that gives you that success and that win at the beginning of the day. And then, well, we all know, like, how many times have you planned like a 4:00 afternoon or an evening workout and the day just didn't go the way you wanted it to, right. And all of a sudden it's gone. And now you have to do it at 9:00 before you go to bed, or you're just spent and you don't have it left. So for a lot of people, I don't think there's a best, like an only time of the day or the, the best in the world that you have to follow. It's whatever time you're going to do it. And that's really the principle for everything. Like if you're going to do it, that's what matters. Not, oh, well, the peak of your, circadian rhythms is at this point. And it's like, that's great, but I just need you to do it. Right. Like,
yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, I mean, this is why we need an expert, right? In order to be able to transform our life, be able to stay on task, do what it is that we want to do and create this transformation for the new year, we definitely need to have someone like you, Chad, in our lives to be able to do that. So before we take our quick break here, I want to be able to share with everyone how to get a hold of you. And probably the fastest, easiest way is just give them a call at 727-488-9571. That's 727-488-9571. And you can also reach him on breakthroughdad@gmail.com. And he's got a special program. If you want to check it out, you just go to truewayfitness.com/breakthrough, and you can check out this special program that he has there. But the easiest way to get a hold of him and the fastest way is just give him a call, 727-488-9571. We're going to take a real quick break, 30 seconds. Stick with us. We'll be right back. When we come back, we're going to talk about Breakthrough Dad, which is very important. We've got a lot of great men in our lives here on our platform that we want to be able to, connect with. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that with Chad Johnson. It is just so wonderful having you here with us. He is a transformational coach, fitness coach, and just an all-around great guy. And we want to thank you so much for being on the show with us. We'll be right back. Just hang tight for 30 seconds. Well, welcome back. You guys are listening to Link to Expert Business Showcase. This is newsstreamingnetwork.com, home of WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, which is our radio station, and then also Going Bold and Going Solo Media. And we want to just thank you so much for joining us here today. We have a wonderful guest here with us. We're talking about transformation of the new year with Chad Johnson. He's one of our locals here in the Tampa Bay area, and we're just so thrilled to have him here with us. And first part of the show, we talked about fitness, really how to rethink about what you're doing with your life on fitness. And that was just a wonderful episode. And if you missed it, please go back and listen to it because it's got great information there that I think certainly can help you. But let's talk a little bit now, Chad, about what you're doing on Breakthrough Dad. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So, the name is meant to be kind of, helpful in understanding in the first place, but Breakthrough Dad, actually the dad is an acronym. So, of course, I'm looking to help basically success-driven dads that kind of want to do more with their lives, that kind of thing, to be better versions of themselves, to create a better life for themselves, their family, and ultimately to, kind of like break through those struggles or whatever their limitation is. For some people, it might be more in their relationships. Some people, it might be more in their health and fitness, and others, it might be more in like their business or career, and kind of like that whole legacy side of things. Right. And so, it's meant to, when I was going through and over the years, all the experience of the things I've done and had, it was always like, oh, well, you should just focus on the fitness side, Chad, because you've done this part. Da, da, da. And whenever I try to just focus on that, it always feels like something's missing for me, right? Like it's not complete. And then I don't want to just be a life coach, but like these things all interrelate. They all actually are a part of the problem and the solution, And so of course our relationships, I mean, the two things that cause the most conflict I've found in human existence or relationships is expectation and communication, right? Like if we don't align on those two things, then we're going to have conflicts. We're going to have issues. And I look at everything should be win-win-win, right? Like everybody involved should be winning from it. Otherwise there should be no deal. And the whole process for Breakthrough Dad is to try to help dads moms are amazing. And I think we all owe obviously a lot to moms. But there's a lot of studies in science that shows how an involved and evolved father can impact the kids, and of course the wife too, and the family as a whole. But like, for boys to learn how to be men and how to treat women and then how to believe in themselves, and then so much, just as much those things for their daughters, but also, I mean, like the studies showing that I've seen about helping them have the self-confidence as they go to find a mate, or go into their careers. Like if they had a bad or a minimal relationship with their dad, like there's all these things that breaks down their self-confidence and has such an impact. And I don't want that. Like I don't expect my kids to be like me necessarily. Like, I never drank alcohol in my life. I never did drugs. I never smoked. I actually, I've been with my wife for 21 years, and we even lived together 2 years before we got married. And I waited till marriage. Like I've been very, very principled in these certain things. And yet I know I'm just like everybody else. I have the same, life cycle and the same struggles and as everyone else. And I'm only one decision different from, being an alcoholic or whatever. And so I look at it like it's very humbling and edifying at the same time. And the whole breakthrough dad concept is to help dads have that breakthrough and a sense of like brotherhood as well, like a community, because men tend to like keep everything inside and not want to share. And truth is I think vulnerability is probably the biggest strength you can ever have. If you can learn to be vulnerable and get some criticism and get a little bit of tough love, that is probably that's where your breakthroughs are going to come, right? That's the point, that's where the breakthrough comes in, is like, hey man, I need help. Right? I can't do it on my own. I'm struggling. And not have somebody come in and chastise you, but instead to go like, I hear you. I've been there too. This is what I found has worked for me. So I don't try to look at it like I'm like the guru and like I have all the answers. I'm a few steps ahead maybe. And I've learned some things that have worked. And by the way, I have 4 kids, right? Like our kids are between 11 and 2 years old right now. And so I heard this thing where somebody said having a 4th kid is like drowning in a pool and somebody hands you a baby. Like it is. I describe it as controlled chaos, but without the control. Right. And so like, it's a different, you can watch all the, what do you call them? YouTube videos or the reels about being a good parent. And it kind of is almost like comical because it's like, it doesn't work out like that. And my wife and I are good. We're intelligent. We employ strategies and they don't always work. Right. And so, to have that understanding that like, you don't have to be perfect and that you're trying to make progress and doing so, just like weight loss, right? Like just keep at it, just keep going, doing the good things. We didn't even talk much about nutrition, which we know is like, a big
we'll have to
factor.
have you come back because we're going to have to close out the show. It's so much that we can talk about in this short period of time. And it's just, and I'm with you. I'm a mom of 5, so I know exactly what you're going through. And it can be crazy, but it also is a blessing, a true blessing.
Of course.
Is there anything, Joanne, you want to share quickly before we have to close out the show?
Well, I know the other day when Chad and I talked too, he used the acronym DAD as driven, authentic, or aligned, and dedication. Yeah. And I just thought that was brilliant. So I appreciate Chad sharing that with us today. And I really do feel like, you really do have to feel it first that you really want to do it. Otherwise, you're just going to give up. And even if you do slip, it's okay, is what I think. And then just get back on the horse and try it again, and don't ever give up.
Absolutely. So again, you guys can reach Chad at 727-488-9571. Again, that phone number is 727-488-9571. Go to, if you want to email him, to breakthroughdad@gmail.com. And then check out this site that he does have. He's got a special program on there. It's called truewayfitness.com, and then /breakthrough. So check that out. If you got a few minutes, why not? Let's go all the way, right? When we make a decision, we have to go all the way. And I believe that's what Chad has been trying to tell us here today, is to make choices that are right for you and then take action upon it. So we want to thank you so much, Chad Johnson, for being with us here today. You guys are listening to Link to Expert Business Showcase. I am Cece Shatz, just one of your hosts. I have my wonderful good friend here with me, Joanne Weiland, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it.